All right, what up, y'all? It is a rainy storm checking in. Okay, we're going to be talking about the 11th house through the signs today. But before I get into it, y'all want to make sure that y'all go ahead and like, share, and subscribe on this video. And make sure y'all hit that notification bell so you know when I post. All right. Now, also leave comments down below. Tell me what is going on in that 11th house. What sign governs that 11th house? Do you have any planets in the 11th house? And don't just tell me about the planets that's in the 11th house, but how do you get along, how do you go along with this energy? You know, do you feel like it helps you? Do you feel like it's hindering you? What are your experiences? Let me know in the comments down below. If it's your first time coming in, what it is, what's up, welcome in. All right, welcome to my humble abode. For those of y'all checking in, what it is, what's up. All right, I hope everybody's been doing good. I hope everybody's been doing great. All right, so again, personal readings down below if you want to explore more about your 11th house. All right, or anything else that's within your chart that's connected here. All right, especially when we're talking about like life, vision, purpose, mission, goals, and things. All right, so let's go ahead and jump right into it. We're talking about first and foremost Aries. What happens when you have Aries governed in the 11th house? All right, so the lesson that you come here to learn in evolutionary root work astrology is to lead the collective with boldness, right? This is the fearless leader, right? You want to show up as a leader within your groups, right? You want to show up as somebody who is able to trailblaze, right? Spark a new path, right? Take initiative as well too when it comes to your group settings and things like that. Even if, because Aries is the one, right? Even if it's just you, right? You spark, you know, the light the flame initially for everybody else to come through and be like, oh my God, they're doing this. Oh my God, let me do this too. You know? Now the evolutionary task that you have been tasked with is intimate moments, right? Or say intimate moments, initiating moments that light the spark, right? Now the shadow of this is all like conflict in groups. You know, sometimes, like I said, Aries comes in as like the one, right? Because this is the first, right? And it's the soul, right, of the self. And sometimes you can be quite a bit of a lone wolf, right? So it's learning the balance between having that time for yourself, but then also being able to connect to people who you resonate with in this lifetime, right? And it also could be a little bit impatient, right? There could be, it's Mars here, so there could be fights, you know, in between groups and things like that, if not handled with care. And then conflict could definitely arise within groups, especially with Aries here. You could be a little bit more strong-headed and fiery, you know, in the things that you think and you believe, so it could cause a little bit of tension and things. But if you're able to communicate your needs and talk those things out within the groups and things and try to be a balance of a co-collaborator and also have your own within the groups and not be enmeshed in the groups, then you'll fare well here. Now, the medicine that you can apply to this moon energy here is physical movement with the community, right? And then leadership, what it means to be a leader. Like exploring what it means to be a leader, asking yourself the questions of like, how do I show up within community groups? You know, and do I believe that it's beneficial for me and also the people around me that I serve within the 11th house? Okay, let me turn my light on real quick. It's a little dim in here. So these are some of the things that you can see here. This is kind of cute. I ain't never did it like this before. This is also some of the things that you can see here within the 11th house. Now, the legacy that you have basically to leave behind here is, you know, you are birthed in the revolutions, right? You inspire people to act. You inspire people to move. You inspire people to do things differently and even think about things differently, like needing the sovereignty, needing that independence, what that looks like. And so, you know, really embodying that fiery cardinal Aries energy, knowing that you're the first, even if you're not the first to do it, but really trailblazing as a pioneer in that path, you know, sticking to your guns, which I know sometimes Aries is like Gemini, can kind of switch up in that way, but knowing that you tried it anyway, right? You know, you ask for forgiveness later after you do it, says Aries, right? So that's a little bit about Aries. Now, if you happen to have Taurus in the 11th house, the root work lesson that you're learning here is building stable and sustainable communities. To me, this looks like gardening, right? This is like having land, being a steward of the land, right? And cultivating that in a way with your collective that is able to lay a foundation that will be able to feed not only this present time, but generations at a time. So this is like, I'm picturing somebody like planting a fruit tree. I'm picturing in my mind like an apple tree or a mango tree. And it takes quite some time for that tree to bear fruit, but you planted it. So not only will you have it in a couple of years, but also the generations after you, it'll keep bearing fruit, right? So things like that. Now, the evolutionary task here is, creating, and I also think of barter and trade every time I think of Taurus, always, because it has to do with economics and the economy and how the exchange and things. So I can see this with Taurus as well too, and what is of value and what's not of value. Now, the evolutionary thing that you've been tasked with is, creating collective resources and shared abundance, going back to that of, bartering, trading, and things like that, what it means, what it looks like to exchange value, what it looks like to exchange with you and someone else, you and another, with this energy here, the value of what that looks like as well. And like I said, planting the seed, right? Taurus is fixed earth. So planting that seed, building the foundation, having a foundation, whether it's physical home, internal home, so that will be able to shine through with the generation. You ain't start doing all this, so I start recording. Move. Thank you. Anyway, so this is what you can see with Taurus in the 11th house. Now, the shadow is, you'll see a little resistance to change, and there could be a little possession within the group setting, right? And this can be something that builds over time, even a little bit resentment that builds up over time with Taurus in the 11th house when it comes to groups and things. I think speaking on your needs, speaking on the things that you like. I know it's hard sometimes, especially like when I say, just trying to be a little bit more flexible here in some way, shape, or form. Allowing the community also to have a say-so within your community spaces, like I said, because Taurus can be a little bit more fixed here on like what it likes, what it does, things like that. So just kind of reeling that in, sometimes, and being open and receptive to other ideas and things like that, even if it doesn't necessarily fully connect to the things that you want. I'm not saying that you have to be a compromising, every single time, like, no, but trying to meet your community people in the middle is what I'm trying to say. Now, medicine that you get from this particular space is grounding practices, land-based or economic justice work, right? So this to me is like land justice, right? So reclaiming the land, right? Beyond politicking and documents and, if I'm gonna be real, like land ownership and things like that, like this is beyond that. This is reclaiming what was lost, if we're talking about an evolutionary sense. All this other stuff, to me personally, is fake, of how we, you have to buy this and Taurus, this is beyond that. Especially as we're moving through this Pluto and Aquarius transit, I feel like this is going to really come up for you. And also when the North Node goes into Aquarius in 2026, this is definitely going to come up for you, of thinking about like what it looks like to be a steward of the land, not necessarily own the land, but be a steward of what that looks like. I even think about, how they talk about like squatting and squatters. It's not going to be something that's known for anymore. It's just going to be what we call reclaiming the land. All right. So I'll put that and leave that there. Now, the legacy that you leave behind is you create systems you create flow, I'll say, that nourish future generations, like we talked about before. Planting that one seed, for example, that one fruit tree, those vegetables and tending to the animals and the land and things like that can set you up not only for this present moment, but also set you up for future generations. So that's what we have for Taurus in the 11th house. Now, if you have Gemini in the 11th house, all right, the root work lesson here is sharing information freely. You are a conduit, Gemini, in the 11th house. So, and also being a connector. So all the information that you're getting, you're sharing with other people. You're teaching with other people, whether it's formally or informally, right? Your voice is a conduit. It's an unfiltered conduit, right? There could be a lot of movement also too with this 11th house between you and your friend group and things, and your collective groups and things. Now, the evolutionary task that you have been tasked with is connecting with like minds, spreading ideas, and archiving knowledge, right? Not only are you a conduit, but you are essentially a memory keeper, right? It's Mercury. It's mutable air, right? So this is like, for example, in my mind is always archiving like or reestablishing languages, right? Whether that's a verbal language, a written language, a musical language, right? Sound frequencies, sound healing, things like that. Is you are a steward of that. It's easy usually for you and your groups and collectives to be able to break down and decode even this particular language amongst each other here too. Now, the shadow energy of Gemini in the 11th house is, it can be a little chatty catty, a little gossipy right here. And also scattered in alliances. Now, I think that connecting to different types of people from different walks of life is great, but definitely not playing in the middle, right? Like with certain communities and connections. I see Gemini in the 11th house of being able to move through different groups and communities and connections. Like you might even change friend groups, collective groups quite frequently, or you could be a part of multiple different types of groups. So there's nothing wrong with it. I think, especially when we get into like the gossipy kind of energy, and that kind of thing, like playing the fence or playing the field and things, instead of like having loyalty and allegiance to certain groups and things. It can get into that kind of thing. I also like to think of Gemini and the shadow energy as like a spy. You know what I mean? Like somebody who goes and collects the tea and then goes to the other group and was like, yeah, they were saying this and stuff about y'all. They was like, Gemini, like, they gotta go in, right? So the medicine that you learn from this is, healing your nervous system, right? And this is through movement, physical, bodily movement, Gemini. And not just like moving around, but like again, going back to what I was talking about, I think with Aries is like dancing, getting physically, moving your body physically, whatever that case may be, whatever that looks like personally for you, Gemini in the 11th house, right? This is, speaking in groups, dialogue, and connecting different ideas and things with people from across different worlds and communities and even countries, even, or neighborhoods and local communities. The legacy that you come to leave behind is you weave networks through language and learning. Like I said, this could be learning an actual language. This can be speaking in the same language, right? Like, I understand you, you understand me. We can talk about anything. And then it's also keeping yourself open to curiosity and just learning new things, and being able to make those distinct Geminian connections with what this is and what that is, what this could be, what that could be, things like that. This can also make great inventors, by the way, people who invent new things, especially in lines of technology and communication. All right. So definitely let me know what you think down in the comments below. Now, if you have Cancer in the 11th house, right, this root work lesson is care, right, for the collective, emotionally, all right. It's a nurturing energy. You could kind of be seen as the mother, or you can attract people within your world that kind of feel like home, that feel like, and maybe even a little bit overprotective, within the group community here. Now, the evolutionary task that you've been tasked with is creating safe, nurturing communities. These communities should feel like y'all can just, first of all, feels like family. And then, two, it feels like you can just be yourself. You ain't got to be anybody else. Everybody's just comfortable being them, being around each other. Like, it should just feel like home. Like, my nervous system feels regulated when I'm with you. My nervous system, my heart feels full when I'm with these people. My cup feels full when I'm in. My ocean is flowing when I'm with y'all. There ain't no dams connected. There ain't no levees here when I'm with y'all. You know what I mean? The shadow is here as being a little bit overly identifying with the group in a way that is suffocating, or in a way that you take yourself out of the equation, right? That you no longer have an identity because you're so wrapped up in being the caretaker for everybody else. So it's you also taking care of yourself here as well too. Cancer. All right. And an emotional dependency, right? Like you gotta have boundaries within your collective groups and things. You don't want to be in spaces where you are giving out so much that you are draining the Cancerian waters up out of yourself. All right. So knowing when to pour out, knowing when to have that nurturing energy, that care energy, and then also knowing when to pull back. All right, Cancer. Now, the medicine that you can have here, that you experience here, is the somatic and ancestral healing in groups. Just being around your energy alone, Cancer in the 11th house, or just being around the people that you're around, it's just healing in itself, right? And doing things that are ushers and conduits of that healing. This could look like going to places like healing retreats with people, right? Going and doing like an ayahuasca, right here, or going to get some Reiki healing or sound healing, right? Doing maybe you're in a group of artists or creatives that are also very healing for you and things, right? This could even be, going to spaces where you're healing, because Cancer to me not only reminds me of the mother, but it reminds me, or the divine feminine, but it reminds me of even children. So, doing things creatively that heal the inner child with a collective group of people. I even think of theater arts as well with Cancer here, because this brings the drama here, much like Leo in the 11th house, but in a different way. Now, the legacy that you've come to build here is, you build them with like chosen family, right? Emotional temples, sanctuaries with people that like really see you, get you, feel you, care for you in a way that maybe you haven't felt, growing up. You know what I mean? And if you did feel that growing up, actually being an usher and conduit and creating other spaces like that for people, whether it's in private, because Cancer is the moon here, or even publicly, in spaces here. I also want to add that, Cancer does rule nostalgia. It does rule time. This can also be, like Gemini, a great archivist of memories as well here too. You can see. So that could also come up within your groups, but from the more, not necessarily like the Gemini logical standpoint, but more from like an emotional space. Now, if you happen to have Leo in the 11th house, this is the root work lesson that you've come to learn is leading with the heart. All right, the fullness of your heart, not the ego side of your heart. Yes, having a balance between the two, but really being that expressive, creative, boundless, energetic, optimistic, allowing that lion to really soar within your groups and your collectives and things like that. Now, the evolutionary task that you have been tasked with is inspiring community through that creativity and joy. The things that you do and that you create on the Leon scale through that creativity also inspires other people to do the same. People get excited when they're able to witness you in the fullness of yourself, and they're like, damn, if they could do it, I want to do it too. I've this is also inspiring me to be creative and full. You know what I mean? So being in that energy, in the fullness of yourself, and attracting others that want to do the same. Again, going back to the Cancer energy, it's like theater arts, music, performing, leadership as well here too. And just bringing that lively energy, like I feel like this is like very life of the party, even if it's not necessarily like a physical party, like you coming into spaces or meeting other people that come into spaces that just brighten up the energy of that particular area of your chart. So now the shadow aspect of this is needing that validation from groups, especially because I say this with groups of like people that you're close to. It's okay to, want to be in spaces where you are seen, felt, and heard, but sometimes you're going to have to go along. Sometimes you'll have to go along with your own. You're going to do what you want anyway, but not worrying about like always like how is this going to be perceived if I do this and this and things like that. Just kind of going for what it is anyway, knowing that you are the light in these spaces. You know, being considerate, yes, but also not holding yourself back because due to what you feel and think other people are going to feel, believe, and say. You know, doing it without the applause, really, here with the shadow energy. Now, the medicine here is creative collaboration, right? And healing from or leading from a place of heart-centered space. Creative, heavy on the creative collaborations, the things that you can do, the stories that you can tell, Leo in the 11th house here. Now, legacy that you're leaving behind here is, you know, you make community feel alive and radiant, right? You make them feel inspired. And with everything that's going on in the world, Leo in the 11th house, we need creative people. We need people who are creating and, you know, kind of breaking the rules in a way of, you know, what this world is trying to suppress us from doing, which is expressing ourselves. You know, there's so much sameness in this reality that we're currently in that, you know, I think the Leo energy, especially when we get into Jupiter and Leo next year, with the North Node in Aquarius, South Node in Leo, it's like revenish back up, right? Of like a little splash of color, a little splash of regality, if you will, okay? Let me know in the comments what you think down below. And if you'd like to explore it, you know where to find me. Virgo in the 11th house, okay? This is the root work lesson that you are learning is serving the collective group with precision, with detail, all right? With healing even, you know, here. That eye that you have for detail, the eye that you have for being able to improve things or to make things better, you know, with your energy signature is what you're doing, what you can do here. The evolutionary task that you have been tasked with is to improve the flow through healing and organization. And organization doesn't necessarily always look like filing papers, which I know in pop astrology they like to say. It's not that. This is how can I, going back to Taurus, if Taurus is, for example, planting the seeds, right? If Taurus is planting the seeds for us to be able to have these seeds to grow so we can feed the families or feed the community, you would come in as, okay, how now that the seeds have been sown and now that the seeds are growing, for example, especially being, you know, mutable earth, right? How can we take these herbs and store these herbs to make sure that we have the medicine just in case people get sick or people need some type of physical procedure, psychological help and wellness here as well too, and even physical health and wellness in this particular area of the chart, right? This is organizing the seeds, you know, knowing where to plant them in the different places of the gardens. You know that the sun shines in this particular place in the area that maybe that the tomato seeds will grow better here than they will grow anywhere else. You know, so things like this is what you can see here with the Virgo in the 11th house, just as an example, right? Now the shadow is a little bit, you know, it can be a little bit cynical in the maybe criticizing a little bit of the groups, or a little bit of burnout, like overdoing it, right? Allowing your way to be your way, but then also allowing other people's ways to also be their way, and just coming in as a means of support and not necessarily trying to carry everything on your back, right? We know you can do it, but we don't need you to carry everything on your back, right? We need you to take some time to basically being of service of what you can offer, but not being of service to where you need to be the person that controls everything, right? Allowing other people to kind of step up within their own gifts and abilities and things like that, and also contribute to the greater whole here. Okay. Yeah, not doing it all alone. I'll just put that out there as well. Just allowing people to do them and you coming in to do you, and knowing what that do you is. Even though we know you could do it all, making sure everybody else can also contribute as well here too. Now, the medicine that you're learning from this particular placement is, collective wellness, practice, functional healing, right? Like I said, going back to that medicine, the herbs are planted, they're growing, studying the herbs, you're able to understand how you can use them to heal, whether it's through spiritual healing, physical healing, you know what I'm saying, mental healing as well here, and being able to apply that a one-on-one directly to people and others. Now, the legacy that you're coming to learn or leave behind, I should say, is refining maybe things that have not worked. So you being able to notice this Mercury, mutable Earth. So studying these patterns and being like, ooh, okay, we've tried this. I like to even think of this as like the scientist, right? It kind of reminds me of like Aquarius energy, but in a different way. It's more of an earthy way. Okay, so we've tried this. We've kind of experimented like this. This didn't work. This didn't work. Let's try it a different way and see if it works when we do this and this and this. You know what I'm saying? And then you take that energy, and then you keep trying things till it works, and continuously seeing how those things work and altering those things as you go, when you are like doing the work of organizing, healing, and being in service to those folks in yourself, right? This can also look, like I said, a lot of root work, spiritual work as well within the groups, right? Very psychic abilities as well, very deep abilities in that way. Seers also could come through here, in people who are able to heal through their, like I said, their physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual capacities, right? That's a little bit about Virgo in the 11th house. Definitely let me know what you think in the comments down below. Now, when we get to Libra in the 11th house, right, the root work lesson that you come here to learn is restoring balance within the community. If things seem a little abrupt, right, and it seems like it's too much going on, I even think of it as like the diplomats between two different types of communities and stuff. You kind of come into this energy and say, okay, let me see your side. Okay, well, let me see your side. How can we meet in the middle? Kind of like a mediator within groups. The evolutionary thing that you have been tasked with is to mediate, collaborate, create fairness again within these groups, to find a middle ground between groups, whether it's the group that you are a part of, whether it's the group that other people are a part of. You're finding the middle ground. You're creating the spiritual but also physical contracts between the worlds, right? Now, the shadow here is avoiding conflict and being a little bit indecisive in these groups and things, especially when we talk about Libra. Oftentimes we do go to people pleasing, but knowing that not every single time people are going to necessarily always agree, and there might not necessarily be a middle ground. Maybe people have to part ways. Maybe people have to do something a little bit different. They got to go somewhere else because it's not working. You feel me? But if there's an actual need and there's actual want to work things out, figuring out how you can do that without avoiding the conflict altogether, even if it feels uncomfortable. Now, the medicine that you can learn here is, different things that you can do to bring harmony within the group, right? This could be like, is deeper than icebreakers to me. Like, this is like, especially with Venusian energy, this is like social gatherings where people are getting to know each other, different parties, or maybe even creative arts, because it's Venus, right? So it's beauty, creativity. Like I said, that people are like getting together, getting to know like these different sides, and maybe even creative things. Even music is another thing here, like a collective of like poets and musicians and things, that people are kind of coming together to kind of meet in the middle as well here too. Like I said, it's not all talk. Like, this is like getting into, anytime I talk about this, is like actually getting into the field with each other here. Now, the legacy that you come to leave behind is, you model this idea that we can actually come together as harmonious community. It's not to say that conflicts won't arise, because we're all different. We have different opinions. We have different ways that we think, or the way that we see things, the way that we feel, which is, there's nothing wrong with that. But modeling that the fact that we can come together and create communities that can be not only sustainable, which is Taurus, that can also be one of harmony, where we're working together for a bigger goal, a bigger dream, a bigger vision here. So definitely let me know in the comments down below if you like a personal reading, and you can also find those links down below. Now, if you have Scorpio in the 11th house, right, this root work lesson goes from transforming the collective shadow, right? The things that maybe we don't necessarily want to look at, but we need to direly look at within our collective groups and things. You come in to kind of expose that, bring light to that, and then also do the necessary work that it is to heal this, right? So the evolutionary task that you've been tasked with is leading through depth, truth, and rebirth, right? Like I said, even when it feels uncomfortable to you, you're still in the space of wanting to dive deeper into what that'll look like for you, and also for your community spaces. No matter how uncomfortable it not only feels for you, but also for other people, right? Now, the shadow aspect of this is power struggles, okay? And also secrecy in groups, right? This can be, you can even see betrayal within group spaces and things, because there's a lot of secrets being moved around, things going on. I like to look, I don't know why I think of this one, Scorpio, and also Aquarius is like culty energy, you know what I'm saying? The brotherhoods and things like that. But yeah, there could be like this, because it's fixed water, so there could be very like opposing views. No, we should do it this way, but we need to do it this way, and we need to listen. You got to find a middle ground, especially, like I said, if these are communities that you actually want to be a part of. Like, y'all are like, we want to do this, we want to be in this together, this is what it's going to look like for us, so heed, communicate, right, when the time is right, when the time is necessary to do so you don't feel like this constant clashings of energy here. Now, the medicine that you can learn, or the medicine that you are coming to learn within this energy, is trauma-informed healing. And this can look a multitude of different ways, but really going through the gutter, of really pulling this energy out within your groups, within your settings, within the spaces that you that feel safe enough to do so here. I don't know why I'm thinking of like BDSM. I don't know why for Scorpio I'm thinking of like BDSM communities, and not just in a sexual way, even though it could come up as those types of things, but actually these specific communities that can come up to usher healing trauma through the physical body, right? Because it's Martian energy, and Martian has to do with like energy, vitality, so it's energy that's been stored in the body. So that's just an example. It doesn't have to be BDSM, but it could be something like a BDSM kind of community or something like that, or themes around that. If you don't know what it is, go look it up. I'm even going into that all today. Now, legacy that you're leaving behind is you help communities survive through crisis and also transform here. All right, so that's something that you are bringing within your groups. It can be a little intense. I'm not gonna lie. I'm not gonna hold you. The energy can be quite intense with Scorpio here, but it's necessary for growth within not only your community, but also the communities that it goes out to touch, right? So definitely let me know what you feel and think in the comments down below. If there are any planets, houses, whatever, and if you would like to explore deeper, you can definitely get a personal reading with me. Now, Sagittarius in the 11th house, all right? This root work lesson that you come to learn is expanding the collective vision, especially when we live in such a time where everything has such a limited scope. The scope of what we see, what we think, there's so many limitations as to what we can do. So you come in like a wrecking ball to your spaces, or you meet people that come in like a wrecking ball as well too, and want to expand and implode all of that. You know what I mean? You can also see people that you meet from different parts of the world, speak different languages, quite literally, or not even literally, but y'all speak on different languages, but you come together in different ways. Now, the evolutionary task that you've been tasked with is to teach, travel, and share your belief systems. What you think, what you believe, what you know, those things, and sharing those on a mass scale to people. The things your experiences that you've even learned, that you, it smells good. The experiences that you even come to learn, and the things that you come to know as well here too, with this energy here in the 11th house with Sagittarius. The shadow, this could be a soapbox energy, right? You could feel a little bit, there could be a little bit of superiority complex, where you feel like you want to sit on that podium, right? And preach. And it's like, Sagittarius, everybody has their own experiences. Everybody experiences things maybe quite differently than you, right? And so it's not always Sagittarius is not the end all be all in the voice, in the things that it is experiencing. You have to give it grace here with Sagittarius, given much grace with other people's experience and allowing other people to share theirs amongst your own, right? And just because you believe it does not mean everybody else also believes it as well too. Sagittarius in the 11th house. So just keeping that in mind. Also running into folks that have this, kind of energy, like the gurus and the teachers that lead you astray. And now you're in a cult. I know I keep talking about cult, y'all, but I'm just saying. So you just want to be mindful of what this looks like here. Now, the medicine that you come to embody here is, changing your philosophy, exploring different philosophies. I would say more so exploring than changing, because you can keep it, you can change it, but through different cultures, through movement-based and cultural work as well here too. You are not meant to stay in your, you're not meant to stay around people, places, and things that not because you are othered, but more so you have people outside of for example, the neighborhood that you grew up in that are coming and wanting to teach you something. They're coming to open something new up, so you might have a different philosophy. Like, I look at this as somebody who maybe lived in a neighborhood and grew up in a specific type of neighborhood all their life, and then they go to travel and it completely changes them. It completely changes their worldview. It completely changes their vision. It completely changes their life. And it doesn't necessarily have to be overseas, even though a lot of times Sagittarius is like cross-water travel, like overseas here. But, right, you want to look to your 9th house as well. But, you know what I'm saying? Like, you travel somewhere that you've never been before, and it completely changes you. Those things. Now, the legacy that you come to leave behind is inspiring on a global scale, future-oriented communities, like people who see beyond the veil, the people that see beyond the, people that see beyond this world scope and vision and view that we have, and are like, okay, well, now I want to do something completely different. I want to progress the world in a way. I want to move differently in the world than I did previously before. So these are some of the things that you can see with Sagittarius in the 11th house. And yeah, so and then that's it for Sagittarius in the 11th house. I got distracted a little bit. But if you have Capricorn in the 11th house now, the root word lesson that you are coming to learn is building enduring collective structures, right? And when I say enduring, okay, I don't mean to endure for the sake of enduring and draining your energy in the meantime and between time. But the enduring is going through the Saturnian lessons with you and the collective group, and not just in this one, but in humanity, right? But still building structures anyway, still building things that are going to be able to withstand the test of time, okay? Still things that are going to, from this point on, from this life that you live in now into many lives that people can carry with them for generations and generations and generations at a time. It's going to be a little bit more serious with Capricorn in the 11th house, right? The evolutionary task that you've been tasked with is creating organizations that last, right? Creating collective groups and things that last, again, through the test of time. The things that people can build on, right? I like to call it not, you can reinvent the wheel. You can keep a wheel, update the wheel if you would like, depending on how it serves you, right? And being something that people can tag on. Okay. I like to think of this as, for example, I like to go, because I'm an archivist as well, so I like to think of this as like archival work. So, you know, and I also have Capricorn, in, at least in Western astrology, in the 11th house. So, you know, being able to create structures, you know, for family, community archival spaces that they can use to build and tell their story, share memory. And the reason I say this is Capricorn, because Capricorn has to do with time, right? This has to do with lineage, right? This has to do with ancestors, very old ancestors as well here too. So these things coming from being able to record the memories and share these different types of memories. Now, shadow, right? Hierarchy issues, right? And also emotional distance. It can feel sometimes a little like sometimes it can, the shadow aspect of this, it can be too much about the mission, right? And sometimes neglecting the emotional connections, right? The emotional resonance and things, right? Now, the hierarchy issues stem from, honestly and truly, especially when it comes to the governance, because Capricorn also rules like governments. So there could be clashes between authority or authoritative figures, right? And what it is that you want to do versus what they want you to do. So you can run into a lot of clashes here, energy with the 11th house. But understanding that you essentially need that balance between the emotional connection, knowing that the mission is still going to be there, right? And that you're here to experience a full world, a full life, and enjoying the life, enjoying your world, enjoying your essence, while you are also building this Saturnian ambition, goals, vision outwardly as well. Just remember to enjoy things here, you know. The medicine is leadership, accountability, slow and sustainable growth, right? So understanding that you have been tasked with a very Saturnian responsibility and not running away from that particular responsibility, knowing that things will happen slowly over time and not always immediately, but things happen in its own spurts in time. But in the long run, it'll work better than if you were to just jump into something and then I'm sorry, I think I smell some tree. And then everything crumbles or falls. I do smell some tree. And then everything crumbles and falls. Right? So taking your time, getting clear on what the vision is, and how those things connect all together within what you're doing, so you can build from a place of that Saturnian structure and vision, if you will. Now, the legacy that you've come here to learn or come here to actualize, is you bring in a level of community wisdom, and you're sharing this collective community wisdom, again, that can withstand the test of time. You know, like I said, building, I hate saying structural things because it just sounds so, it sounds so medical, right? If anything, I would say building foundational community spaces, sharing that old ancestral wisdom that you have, you know, to communities, so they're able to pass that down again to the next generation here. So definitely let me know what you think down below if you have Capricorn in the 11th house, and you know where to find me if you need that personal, right? Now, Aquarius in the 11th house. This root work lesson is to liberate the collective, okay? You are liberating the collective outside of this world that we live in of control and power and things, to live as an individual and uniquely you, right? Being free in the vessel that you've come here to do this greater, larger visionary work here. The evolutionary task that you've been tasked with is to innovate futures and the social sphere of the collective consciousness that we are in, right? Again, going back to, I said Gemini, but this is also Aquarius, is like becoming an inventor, inventor of different technologies, right? Different healing capacities as well, especially when it comes to the electrifying energy that, this Aquarius energy carries. Rebelling against these systems that keep us oppressed and suppressed. Okay, thank you. The shadow energy is detachment, rebellion without grounding, right? Rebellion without a anchor, right? Just the sake of rebelling. Like, okay, we're going to rebel, but what would happen in the meantime, in between time, after the rebelling is in full? Which leans to, we say Uranus, but which leans to the natural ruler of Aquarius, which is Saturn energy here, okay? Now, the medicine that you've come to learn is the nervous system regulation. Much like, again, Gemini is regulating your nervous system so you can ground those things after the rebellion is said and done, right? I wouldn't even say said and done because it's a lifelong process, right? At least in the times we're living in now, this is a lifelong process of rejecting these systems, right? Community tech as well, right? So this community technology that we also see here, and learning different technologies and being inventor of that. I like to look at even 11th house Aquarius as like going back to the manual, for example, going back to like manual things, like the printers and the cameras and prints and boom boxes and going back to things that go outside against the grain of like our cell phones and the internet and systems and things, new ways to connect and meet and bond with each other. Now, the legacy that you are coming to leave and embody, I should say, is you are the architect of the future. You are the one that says, I have a vision for the world and what I would like to see in a progressive way, because that's all we talking about here. We ain't talking about anything else, right? And you actually setting forth on that journey, right, with you and the collective. And mind you, this is home for Aquarius, right? It's home for Aquarius, right? So this is just something that you naturally do. You definitely want to check into the rest of your chart and things, but this is just something that is innately in you to do during this lifetime here. Okay, so definitely let me know what you think down in the comments down below. And if you like a personal reading, you already know where to find me in the description box down below. Now, Pisces in the 11th house, this woodwork lesson that you're learning here is dreaming with the collective, right? Now, with Pisces, it can be a little bit dreamy and sometimes not enough to ground the actual, dream into fruition. But maybe finding people with earth placements that can help you actualize, and if you don't already have it in your chart, that it can actually help you actualize these dreams into fruition instead of just kind of floaty, flighty, thinking about this particular dream that can happen here. Now, the evolutionary task that you have been tasked with is healing through compassion and imagination. The level of compassion that Pisces has for humanity can be sometimes, I'm sure, a bit overwhelming for Pisces because you feel everything within groups, outside of groups, walking on around day-to-day streets, whatever the case may be. But your energy alone, much like Cancer, much like water in general, is a healing energy. It heals people just by being around, just by being present, just by showing up. But the thing is, right, when we get into this shadow energy, you don't want to take it all as your own, right? You don't want to take every single thing as your own energy, all right? That's where you're going to slip up when you're trying to be the savior, Captain Sabo, right? In it, right? So give as much of the capacity that you can give and leave rest. Okay, Pisces. Give as much you can, what you can do, right? Have boundaries with people and yourself, and then leave the rest. Okay. Now, the medicine that you are embodying in this time is spiritual community care, right? And grounding practices that help you ground that energy so you can make those dreams with the collective groups a reality, right? Knowing that you have it on your heart, knowing that you have it on your head for a reason, and then taking that energy and being able to actually pull it forth within this waking reality. Okay. And now the legacy that you've come to leave is you dissolve separation, and reminding us that we are one. No Frankie Beverly and Maze, right? We are one. Hey, 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 hey. We are one. Hey, hey, hey. We are one. We are one, right? There's no difference. There is differences, but there are no difference between you and I, right? We've all come here, and so instead of looking at ourselves as separateness from each other, looking at ourselves from a place of, wait, we actually are connected because we've been brought here for a reason, for some way, from some shape, for some form. And how can we actually look at the root cause of the things that are happening and settle those things, right? Right? Just saying, how can we settle those? Looking at the root of what's causing all this dismay within and between our groups, right? So this is what I have for y'all. You already know what it is. It's a rainstorm checking in, checking out without a doubt. We're going to be moving into the 12th house, right? And we'll be doing a lot more on the 12th house, not just these videos, but we'll be talking about a lot more of the 8th house, the 12th house, the 4th house, the IC, and things like that, especially on the evolutionary root work front. And yeah, I hope y'all have enjoyed this video. Definitely let me know in the comments down below what you think, what you feel, what's happening. And yeah, I'll see y'all in the next one. You already know what it is. It's raining, so I'm checking in, checking out. Without a doubt, deuces.